Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Lauren and this is my allotment YouTube. So we are here today with a massive job to do. As you can see, the plot is looking unruly. We've got lots to do, there's loads of weeds, the beds are a mess, and basically my intention, if you saw my earlier video, my last one, you will be all up to speed, but a real brief run through of what my plan is. So I've got 100 metres of weed suppressant in a box at the shed, and my intention is I'm going to completely clear the allotment, so we're going to go right back to basics. So this was my first year of having an allotment plot, and I've learned a lot, but I've not made anything permanent, so it can all be changed, and I wanted to just get on this year, give it a little try, see what works, have a bit of a play with everything, and if anything doesn't work, it can be changed. So I've not spent an awful lot of money. The bark was pretty much free. The compost, a lot of it I did pay for, but that's okay because it will stay. And then the logs, they came from a friend's garden, and I just made my raised beds with those by laying them down on the ground this year. And basically I'm going to pick them up and move them all so that we can completely restructure this whole area. So currently I have this long raised bed up here. It didn't work, it's too wide. I ended up walking on it all the time. This side is individual beds, not that they're very well defined at the minute because of the weeds, but essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of the logs up, put them in a little storage area at the back of the allotment. I'm going to cover everything with weed suppressant, apart from a couple of the plants that I've got in the ground that I'm going to keep, so things like my strawberries, and I've got a couple of fruit bushes, so I'll just cut the weed suppressant around those. But other than that, it's all going to get covered with weed suppressant. The couch grass here is horrific, the dandelions are relentless, so yeah, and thistles as well. We get a lot of thistles on this plot, so I'm going to take it right back to basics and we're going to start again. So this bed here, as I said, it's a long bed, it didn't work, so I'm going to split it up into individual beds with a little path in between them, because it's not going to lose me any growing space, because I was having to leave a little path anyway so that I could nip through, because it just wasn't practical. Okay, so because the bed is so wide, I couldn't reach from one side to the other. I had to go across to the other side to do anything with that side of the bed. So yeah, we are gonna absolutely get cracking today. It's glorious sunshine actually. We are mid-October now in the UK, but it is cold. The cold is creeping in. The mornings are freezing. I think we're due for, I think it's 1 degree in the morning or overnight. So it really is getting colder. So it's best to just get out and get these tasks done, one, before the ground freezes and it gets too hard to work with on this sort of scale, and also before it just gets too unpleasant to be out here for any long range of time. So yeah, so first off, I'm going to just go ahead and clear everything, get all of the logs out of the way, and then I can start putting the weed suppressant down. So yeah, let's get cracking. was well into it then, and then got distracted by the allotment cat, as I'm going to call it. It's always on my plot, as long as I don't bring the dogs. But I'm not a cat person. Like, I can't read cat language like I can dogs. So, but I mean, when it comes over and paws at my boot, I assume it wants some attention from me. It's super friendly. But yeah, I have put on the local Facebook page to say, is this your cat? It's super friendly, but if you wonder what it does all day, it sits on my allotment plot. It's always here. It used to sit on next door's plot before the new people moved in, I think, because it used to be undisturbed. But yeah, it's come across to my plot now and likes to hang around and roll around and scratch on stuff and try and play with my gloves. But I'm like, oh, I don't know what you want. But yeah, very, very sweet. So majority of the logs are now up on these beds. As you can see, they're all gone. So I just need to clear the remainder of this side. And then once that is all done, I can start laying the weed suppressant. And I think it'll start looking quite nice then once it's all covered and the weeds are out of sight. But yeah, I'm going to continue to just crack on for the time being. I might stop and have a cup of tea in a minute. I've brought a flask with a cup of tea. As you can see, it's really nice and sunny. It has been wet, so don't know if you can see, but I'm absolutely filthy because the logs are dirty. But that's fine. That's why I wear my allotment clothes down here. Yeah, so I think I might actually stop for a cup of tea now. And then I'll get cracking again and finish moving all of these logs. And then I've got my staple gun out, and as you can see here, it was here when I got here. There's like a sort of boundary line made with a piece of wood. A lot of people have removed theirs because you don't have to keep them in. But I'm going to actually staple my weed suppressant to that because I found I can't get close enough to this edge with the weed suppressant, so these bits still grow through on the edges. So if I fold the weed suppressant over, I mean, we have got some weeds on our path here, so I might even cover that as well, but I'm just going to fold it up and over and staple it to this side of the wood, just try and keep it in place over winter and stop, oh, I don't know what I just stood on, lump of wood, because as you can see here, I've had weed suppressant, but it still grows up those edges. So yeah, and I'm also going to do the same thing with my shed over here. So with my shed, I've got weed suppressant here, and this is the stuff that I've just rebought. As you can see, no weeds grow through. But on the edge here, they are poking through, so I'm going to staple some weed suppressant to the shed as well, just to try and get all of those edges, because the couch grass is relentless, and if there's any sort of gap, it will come through. So yeah, I think I'm going to have a little tea break, and then we'll get going again. So tea break done, having a little look at this long bed here, and I think I'm just going to get this one covered now because I quite like the satisfaction of seeing something covered over. So this is a blackcurrant bush, so I'm keeping that there, and this here was the weed, the mint that just appeared out of nowhere, so technically a weed. I didn't plant it, so I am going to take that one out of the ground. Everything else I'm going to keep, that can go die somewhere, and hopefully, yeah, won't become too invasive. But I mean, I do like mint, I don't want it right there. But yeah, so I'm going to get this bed nice and covered, staple over the weed suppressant over these edges, to try and keep those nice and neat, and then yeah, get all of this covered up to about halfway, and then I'll finish on that side over there. But yeah, it's glorious sunshine today, it has to be said. Really, really lovely. Which leads me on to say, do you wear sun cream when you go to the allotment? I will never not wear Factor 50 down at the allotment, or any day, to be honest, be it summer or winter. So although it's cold today, you still need your sun cream on. Make sure you are putting it on. Factor 50, nothing less. Okay, let's see where we're at then before I get home. The weeds outside my plot are an absolute mess, but I will get to those. And then it's looking an awful lot more controlled. So, as I wanted to do, oh, there's a little cat in here again, different one. I've stapled this weed suppressant, so that's the wooden bit down there, the divider between me and the path. So I've just overlapped that a little bit to try and control the weeds from going over the edge. This is where my beds were. So, as you might be able to see on camera, I have just drawn a line of where the beds are, just so that next year I don't have to pull the weed suppressant up to see where my good compost is. I've also tucked the weed suppressant up underneath all of these pallets. I'm trying to work out whose fence this actually is, because me or my neighbour didn't put it up. That is the second boundary line for my plot, so technically this fence is on my side, it's on my plot, but I have the ugly side. So I have a funny feeling that the people that were here before on this plot over here put this fence up when this plot was empty, but very cheekily put it on my side of the plot. So yeah, I need to look at that, because technically that is my fence because it's on my plot. So need to decide what we're going to do with that. I've labelled as well here that this is my strawberry bed. Not that you can't see that at the minute because I've poked them through, but as the winter goes over we might lose slightly. Obviously they're going to lose their green, so I just may need a reminder of exactly what it is in there. But as you can see, I've just made little cuts for the strawberry plants to come through, and then hopefully it'll mean that the weeds don't. And again, just marked that, so that bed has got nothing in it, but I've just marked it out so that I can see where it is. Here I've got, I think this is blackberry bush and this is raspberry, and I do actually have some raspberries on here, so I'm going to take a look at them and see about taking some home. But yeah, so that's my berry bushes there. I've got my final bed here which had nothing in it that was worth keeping, and today I've weed suppressant up to here. This was all already there from when I did it before, but again this all just needs looking at because the weeds are crazy. However, if you look at my neighbour's plot that side, that's like her messy area still too, so I imagine we'll do them both pretty much at the same time. But yeah, so this was my big long raised bed and I've covered all of that. Just chucked some weed suppressant down here, and these are my old logs. I forgot how big and heavy they actually are, so that has exhausted me today, moving all of those, but I'm glad it's done. Over here I've got a bit of weed suppressant down, need to do a bit more, but I've saved my blackcurrant and I've taken my mint out and covered that over with some cardboard for the time being. This is all of the other logs behind here, so this is a real mess area still that needs working on, but at least it's all in one place and the rest of the plot looks okay. And then along here, you might remember me saying I was going to cover it with weed suppressant and attach it to the shed to stop the weeds coming up behind here. So that's exactly what I've done, and hopefully it'll work. But yeah, so got tons more weed suppressant in there. I have actually got my roll of weed suppressant, haven't I? Where's that? I need to make sure, yeah, that's still out. I need to make sure I go and put that in the shed, so I don't want that just laying out here. But yeah, so it's definitely been put to bed for winter, but I think it looks a lot better. I feel more in control of it because I know I'm not going to come down and have all of this area just absolutely overtaken with weeds, but I've still got my bits and pieces in here growing through, so that can be seen. And yeah, then I've got that area at the back, which will probably be, I've been down here about half a day, it's just gone lunchtime, and I came down this morning, so yeah, it'll probably be another half a day's job at the back there, just tidying all of that up and getting it all looking pretty for winter.